Yeah, everybody, we're talking about the cybersecurity defense ecosystem today, and we're going to be talking about another thing that we're going to be adding to the membership, and that is the left of boom and right of boom, protecting stuff, making sure you're prepared for what's going to happen when you do get hit, and make sure that your defense is as good as possible from pen testing as well. And we've got the guy who knows all about this, Adam Bennett. Welcome, Adam. How are you?
Great. Thank you, Julian.
All right, man, let's just jump into this. So the cybersecurity defense ecosystem is the way we're going to help channel partners to reduce or at least put a dent in cybercrime. And if not, at least, reduce the impact of it, right? And the strategy here is let's start off from the basics, right? We all hear about it's not if, but when. We've heard that so many times, we're sort of like sick of it. But the reality is that the best way for you to really prepare is to ensure that you're thinking, oh, I will get hit at some point. And am I ready? Am I prepared for when that day comes? So let's talk about that. What should we prepare for and what should we do?
Yeah, so that's I think you teed it up correctly there. It really is not a matter of if, it's when, for most organizations. And those, and it could be something very simple, like a phishing attack or social engineering attack. It could be executive impersonation, business email compromise, or it could be something more serious like those can lead to more serious things, but it could be something more serious like ransomware, insider threat. So most organizations, the longer they're around, they're gonna have some type of cybersecurity incident. The only question is, how severe is it going to be, and more importantly, how have they prepared? Because if you're not prepared, it's kind of like it's kind of like a game, right? You wouldn't go into a high level of competition in sports without having done a lot of practice and scrimmage and getting yourselves ready.
Yeah, you got to prepare. You got to know what you don't know, right? And in this crazy world we're living in, we don't know a lot of stuff, right? We didn't even know where the attack is going to come from, right? So let's just walk this through kind of I don't want to go through an entire checklist because that's what you could help companies with, right? Help MSPs to help their companies with. So, but okay, so we got to spin up a list, right? A kind of a practicing what's going to happen when you do get attacked, when you're breached. What happens?
Well, first of all, hopefully, you don't panic, because if you do that, you're likely to not make good decisions. So, but if you're not prepared, then you're more likely to panic. So, before an incident happens, you need to have a plan. All right. So you need to have an incident response plan. And I'm not just talking about, some template you find on the internet and you slap it together. I'm talking about something that really makes sense for your organization. It has the right points of contact in there. It's got the different types of controls you have in place, the notification methods, the out of band communications, everything, tailored to your organization. So you have to have that plan, and you need to keep that up to date, at least annually, but really, I think whenever a major change happens, or at least a couple times a year. So you
do have to test it out too, right? You just can't just write a plan and have a piece of document, right? You got to test this out, right?
Exactly. So that was my next point. So you got a plan, but you need to practice. And incident response, there's a life cycle to it. You've got preparation, and that's where tabletop exercises come into play. You've got the sort of day-to-day analysis type things where you're trying to determine if an incident happened. Then you've got, okay, we're in the thick of it, we're responding, remediation, and then then you've got sort of after effects, and getting back to normal recovery. So the practice is very important. Coming up with realistic scenarios that could happen. So whether that's a phishing attack or ransomware, going through this and switching those up, over time, doing them every 6 to 12 months at least is a good cadence. And then capturing those, when you go through these things, you're going to uncover gaps in your plan, in your processes, and people's responses. That's okay. There's nothing to get upset about. Again, I go back to the sports analogy. Practices sometimes, and I coach youth sports sometimes, and so it can be chaos. But you during those practices, you identify things and you work on them and you work on them and you work on them, and then when the game happens, hopefully you execute on those things. And if you don't, you call timeout. You can't do that with the bad guys, right? They're not gonna stop doing what they're doing. So you got to practice and be ready. And we learn a lot from these exercises, and then we get better every time. And then when the real things happens, sometimes we see, it's a scenario that we've already practiced, and then we're just like clockwork. We're a machine at that point.
Got it. So we've got a playbook, right? So we've got this plan, right? And one of the things that I heard you say, like when you have a plan like this, you got to even think about the communication that you do, right? You can't just use your email. You just can't use the same tools that the hackers are now in control over, right? You've got to have an alternate way, right, of reaching out to people that you want to bring in to that thing, because the first step, right, is you got to stop the attack, right? But to stop the attack, you got to know how big it is and what's going on, right? You just can't go and pull cords, right, from the servers.
No, that you don't want to do that. And so these are some of the things you don't want to do, right? You don't want to just go willy-nilly pulling cords, shutting things down, communicating with external parties. You don't want to do any of that stuff until you've basically declared the incident, you've activated your incident response plan in your team, and then you have an incident response coordinator. The whole team is basically activated at that point before you go off and do these things. And yeah, you need to have some sort of out-of-band communications, like could be Slack or text, or even the old school phone bridge. Could be Zoom. I wouldn't want to use Teams if you're a Microsoft shop, because that's all tied in with your Active Directory and 365, so that could be compromised. So all that stuff should be laid out in your plan and should have been practiced.
So that's one of the things that you do, right? And so I'd encourage the members, right, to have a conversation. First of all, to figure out if you do have a plan, and if you don't have a plan, let's get with it, right? The second thing is have a conversation, right? And Adam will walk you through and to help you figure out, how to build a plan, how to test it, how to, make it right, basically, just make it fit for you, right? So we got to do that. And honestly, I think maybe that's the first thing that everybody should probably do, is work on that scenario. Like, what if something happens? What do I do? So that's one check, right? The second thing that you're really great at is, hey man, how good is your penetration, right? Like, what's happening with your stack right now, right? Do you have big gaps? Do you have little gaps, right? Do you even know if you're protecting all your data, right? Are you like, do you know even if you have complications and compliance issues, right? There's a lot of moving parts, right, in the prevention area of things, right? So what are some of the things that you do as a pen testing service to sort of help them to figure out what they got?
Yeah, and so it's a good point. You have to measure your defenses, and hire the good guys to do that before you get to the point where we started the conversation of where something's already happened. And so, yeah, one of the things you mentioned actually, kind of tipped me off to something that's really important, is that, organizations need to know what are their most sensitive systems and what's their most sensitive data. What's the crown jewels, if you were. And have you done, some sort of business impact analysis? How long could you be without this data? How long could you be without that system? What's the impact to your business? And that's not a pen testing discussion. That's a business discussion. But you'd be surprised how many organizations have not done that. And it's really not that hard. It does take a little focus and takes a little bit of time, but it's very important. And oftentimes we will help companies do that. give them some guidance. We can't, tell them what those answers are, but we can help them. So that's very important. Some sort of risk assessment, business impact analysis.
And Adam, the reason why you want to do that as well is because you want to know where to focus your energies on, right? I mean, you don't want to protect stuff that you don't really, that's not going to impact your business that much, right? Because in the world of unlimited budget, let's protect everything, right? But you want to focus, you want to prioritize, right? What's the important stuff?
Agree, totally. And so I think having some sort of hopefully they already have that understanding. If they are, they're ahead of a lot of organizations. But if they don't, start there. And then do some sort of gap analysis, some sort of risk assessment. We provide those as well. And then if they've never, and these are good places to start if they've never had a pen test. If they're a little more mature, then we'll or maybe have some compliance requirements, then we'll get into the pen testing arena. And that's where we're really, just like an adversary, testing their technical security controls, procedural, and people. I mean, right? We're back to the people, process, technology. We're making sure that they do what they say they do. We're testing those controls. It's a lot harder to prevent an attack than it is to actually carry one out. We only have to, on the offensive side, we only have to be right, one time. They have to be right all the time to prevent it, to keep the attacker out. So there's a lot of different types of pen tests. You'll hear a lot of hype about machine learning and AI pen tests, and we have some platforms that we use, usually more on the low end, but we do everything from a basic external pen test to, we hack hardware in some cases for companies, like IoT devices and all kinds of things. We do pen testing in critical infrastructure, SCADA organizations, healthcare. And so we do everything up to the point of even doing web application scanning, code review. So those are, but I really think what's most important is that whether you get a pen test from Crosshair or anybody else, is that you have a conversation with whoever's going to provide it about what's appropriate for your organization. I don't want to go in and sell someone a $75,000 pen test if they don't need it, and that's rare to have something that expensive or that comprehensive. That's an enterprise type thing. Most companies that we're going to deal with, maybe they need to start off with an external pen test, or maybe they want to start off with an assumed breach or a phishing exercise, or maybe a combination of those things. And that's going to be more appropriate for them. We have customers where we're doing pen tests annually, in some cases even more often than that. And we switch it up, right? So, hey, last year or 6 months ago, we did this. We recommend we do that. We have a conversation with that customer, and then they get more value out of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, right? If you have the energy to spin up a security posture, right? And you've got, 10 different levels of security stack, you've got your process in place, you've got your team in place, you've got all these things in place. Like, how do you know if it's ready to roll, right? And the answer is, you just cannot just spin up a cybersecurity, defense, right? And then just wait for the bad guys to come and, get at you and penetrate you, right? And then you spin up your action plan of the breach, right? I mean, you do have to do more due diligence in the front end, because at the end of the day, even though you're prepared for a breach, you don't want to get there, all right? That's like the worst thing, all right? Prevention is worth the, it's better for the cure, right? And you want to make sure you get that prevention, and to harden that prevention, right? You want to dig a little deeper. You just can't spin it up and it's, I'm good. I've got these 8 stacks of technologies that's protecting me. Boom, we're done, right? So what you guys do is you go in there and you figure it out, they got the basics ready. They got, how good is it, right? And then as you find these gaps, then you can actually have a conversation with them and says, look, here, and here is where you're most vulnerable, right? and then you can make recommendations and things like this. So it's really about you helping to figure this out before the problem happens. And in my world, when I think about this these days, it's like, you got to go to your doctor to get your blood tests, checked out, and you got to look for those things that could be a problem. And it might be just a few things you need to do to change your health issues, like take some pills maybe, but that's even the worst thing. But change your health, exercise some more, eat a little bit better, and then you can mitigate those risks. I think it's the same darn thing here, right?
Yeah.
You got to figure out what's a prescription, right, to stay healthy. I heard the word a lot of people use is cyber fit, right? Stay fit in your cyber, and the better that you stay fit in cyber, well, that's going to reduce your footprint and reduce the amount of attacks you're going to ultimately get that's successful, right? So pen testing is critical, but sometimes this thing can be expensive, right? So it's not something you got to do like crazy. So this is a conversation again. You just can't just do it, right? You got to have a conversation. So, walk me through that just a little bit, right? So I'm coming to you. What are some of the things you want to know, right, before you recommend a sort of type of pen test?
Yeah. So, first off, we just want to, get a quick understanding of their business. What is their mission? Who are they? What customers are they serving? And from that, we're going to quickly determine, do they have any compliance requirements? If it's healthcare, it's going to be one thing. And then we're going to want to understand, and that gets into the drivers, why they want to do a pen test, and the size of the organization. If they have any idea about the scope of the pen test, or if they're really just want to get a pen test and they don't really know where to start. And all those things are fine. If, we can start from the low end, we can go up, get very sophisticated, but we're going to make sure that we do something that's appropriate for their organization, the size of the organization, and their needs, and their budget as well. And but we want to make sure that they get the most bang for their buck.
Sure. I mean, the bottom line here is after this process, right? That organization is going to be stronger, have a stronger cybersecurity footprint than they had before. At the very least, they'll be able to sit back, sleep well at night, knowing, oh my goodness, my stack is really good. It's working. My defense is good, right? So you want to test that out for sure. The third thing I want to touch on as well is, so we've got new things coming in the pipeline, compliance issues, regulations. You got the insurance regulations, you got the government regulations, you can't even sell to the government now unless your supply chain is, falling through, fitting set of security criteria. And it's no longer saying, yeah, I got it. You got to prove it, right? You got to actually have proof, right? And now there's new laws and rules coming out with, if you do get a breach and you're a certain size of company and so on, you have to do some disclosing. And don't forget, I just want to, underline this score. If you sell to a big company, which is also, a public company, well, you're part of that now. You're part of the supply chain. So the rules apply to you too. All right. So it's not just for large companies that has this problem, right? It's everybody is going to be connected at somehow, right? So when you look at the compliance regulations, all these things that's here right now, what's your take on it? I mean, it's finally it's getting serious now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been coming for a while. You have things like CMMC in the U.S. and actually that does extend outside of the U.S. if there are suppliers that are military, suppliers that are outside the U.S. There are a few of those. So
I want to add this, Adam. All compliances in almost every country applies to pretty much everybody. We're working in a global world, so if you sell to anybody who sells to anybody in a different country, right, it applies to you. So it's now kind of everywhere. So yeah, just continue.
Yeah, and it's not. And you mentioned insurance as well. They're getting much more stringent. It's not necessarily compliance, but they're doing their due diligence on the company before they issue that policy, and that's getting much stricter. And of course, there are exclusions for those policies. If you say you're doing something and you have a breach and it comes to light that you weren't, well, you're gonna have a problem. So and then yeah, and you're talking about the supply chain. You have to, as a small, whatever size business you are, it applies to small and large. If you're selling to the government or to larger companies, you have to attest that you're doing certain things and you're compliant with the regulations. And again, these things, again, I'll go back to CMMC in the US, DoD. They've accredited some auditors, and they're going to start auditing at some point. I think that's going to be a trend we see in other areas as well. So it's not enough to just say you do something.
Yeah, you got to get ahead of this. I mean, you maybe have some time, but the faster you get ahead of the curve, the better you're going to be ahead of everybody else. So this is no longer, it's nice to do. It's the things you have to do. And I just want to touch on the third thing that you do. So you're part of our virtual CISO, network. And at some points, you just don't know, what to do, right? And so you want to talk to somebody who knows a thing or two about cybersecurity. And that's where you can reach out to Crosshair and have a conversation about your cybersecurity practice and how do you connect to some framework. You can build this right for someone from the ground up, right? So it's not just you come in after the fact. You can actually help someone to spin up, right, the entire cybersecurity solution from A to Z.
Yeah, and it's these are honestly, I think the virtual CISO or vCISO engagements are really we really think this is the best way to go if an organization does not have their own CISO or person that's in charge of their cybersecurity program. And for smaller organizations, most often they don't. So what you can get is a comprehensive coverage, a comprehensive service to build your cybersecurity program from the ground up, and to come up with the strategy, come up with a plan to cover all the bases. And that could be vulnerability scanning, pen testing, incident response, compliance, strategy. All these things can be covered, and our virtual CISOs actually act as the CISO. We'll get on calls with potential customers, existing customers, and potential customers. We'll help fill out surveys, whatever. It's basically the easy button. Whatever you need from a cybersecurity perspective, we'll provide. We really like these type of engagements because it's a longer term relationship, and we can really see the needle move for security for these organizations.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing why it is better to outsource this to a fractional CISO than actually have this in-house. In-house talent only deals with what's coming through your pipeline. So you're just one entity. Virtual CISOs like you guys, you're seeing it from umpteen different companies, and you're seeing attack vectors from multiple different technology stacks. And then you can very quickly identify what is wrong with one company and apply it to fix in another company that internal CISO may not even be aware of because they haven't been hit yet, right? So there is a very important reason why you just can't do this alone. Even if you had your internal CISO, you want to have that internal CISO with an external CISO's resource, right? Because you see a wider range of things. So for me, when it comes to cybersecurity, there's a whole whack of vendors, like 6,000 plus, that's making all sorts of security solutions, and they all sound great, and many of them probably are amazing, right? But choosing the right mix, right, based on your level of appetite, if you will, of risk, how you manage and pull these things together, how they're integrated, how you're managing them. Is it being managed properly? There's a lot of factors that considers this, right? And you need to have some really solid experts who understand that game. You just can't just buy stuff and stitch it together yourself, right? So there you go. So the folks at Crosshair is part of our cybersecurity defense ecosystem for a very big reason. It's a critical component of what we're building here. MSPs need to get these things right. They need to get it right for themselves as well as their customers. And I think just leaving it to chance is probably not a cool thing moving forward. Faking it till you make it, certainly not going to work. And the cool thing is with Crosshair, where I love these guys, is that you're able to build as you go, right? So start off with a conversation, figure out what you got under the hood, do maybe some pen testing, make sure you got the right basics there. Maybe you can get some more gaps filled, that type of thing. And then more importantly, make sure you have that plan in place. Because when that thing hits the fan, you want to be able to call someone to take care of that problem. And if you're going to scramble after you get hit, well, I think it's sort of too late. Adam, I want you to round this out and take us home. What else do you want the cybersecurity channel community members? What do you want them to know about how you can help them?
Well, I think something you said a minute ago is really important. And for organizations, for MSPs, and for their customers to think about, and that is, could we do this ourselves? What would that take for a CISO and just to have a proper cybersecurity program? In order to do that, you're going to be paying a well-qualified CISO, a couple $100,000 a year minimum to find someone really good. That's just one person.
If you can find them.
If you can find them. And there's a huge deficit in these people. And then you got to spend all the money that you still need to spend on technology and the rest of the team, because that's just one person. So we're talking, quite a lot of money. And then you have to deal with managing them and keeping them up to date and training them. Because guess what? Like you said earlier, it's like the doctors, your health. You may be okay today, but in 6 months, something may change. So you have to be proactive with these things. And you need the experts. I've been in this industry a long time, 20 plus years. And I've seen lots of service providers and lots of technology vendors come and go. But there's just no substitute for experts and a steady hand that's seen these things. And you mentioned another thing I wanted to mention was getting that sort of scale, or hey, we saw this on another customer. We just had that happen literally a couple of days ago. We're investigating it's not an incident, but we're investigating an event, and I said, oh, this looks interesting. Let's look across all of our other customers. Do we see this particular indicator anywhere else, and what's it look like, whatever. And it turns out we were able to kind of calm everybody's fears pretty quickly. It's pretty hard to do that when you kind of trying to do it all yourself in-house, I think.
For sure. So we vetted, Adam and his team, and basically this is what you need. All right. It's just that simple, right? Partner up. They work really well with MSPs and MSSPs, right? It's fractional stuff. So it's not going to break the bank, right? But it's going to get you much further down the journey of maturity in cybersecurity stuff. And the more you engage, right, with these folks, the more you're going to see, the matrix, you'll see how the dots connect. And what do I need to do next? And that's going to lead to a roadmap. All right. Yep. And here's how you can continually protect your customers, because I think we all know right now that cybersecurity is a journey. It never ends. Right. We have no clue how AI is going to impact what's going on right now. And don't let us get started in AI and how that's going to impact the cybersecurity world. But it's going to get more complicated. And with compliance issues and so on that's happening right now, right, you do need to make sure you align yourself with an organization that's going to have your back. All right. So there we go, my friend. We're going to put up all the links so people can get into it. And one of the things you're doing for every MSP is having a conversation, a free conversation. So reach out to Adam, right? Have a conversation, talk about yourself, your clients, what you got under the hood, all right? And then come up with a bit of a plan. And, Adam and his team is going to help you to figure out, what to do, right? And make sure you can actually solve the problem and also make money at the same time, right? Because, no one does this for free. So the really cool thing is that it's a really great service that you can add to MSPs, particularly if they need that help, right? You can scale them up pretty quick. I'll leave it there, my friend, and the website address in case they want to, fast track. It's of course it's on the website, but it's what is it, Adam?
It's just www.crosshaircyber.com.
There you go. All right, my friend. Of course, you can come and meet Adam at any one of our shows we're doing. We'll do some virtual sessions. We'll do updates like this all the time. We'll be doing a lot of things. So keep posted and keep checking what's going on. All right, man. Cheers.
Thank you. Appreciate it.